When I steal stuff he says, I will say, my good friend Scott Rigell puts it this way. But I only do that once, because the second time I will say,
that's right,
I will say, it's been said. And then the third time, I just say it.
The first memory that I have of Reid, it was actually the day that we were being sworn in. They get down right before my name, and the clerk calls out Ribble. And it was a little obscure, but and I think how it was called out, but there was no response. I genuinely was thinking, as was my family, that she had mispronounced my name, that she was actually calling my name, and that I was at that time, supposed to say Mr. Boehner. Then Mr. Ribble, who was actually the person, the member, he actually said Boehner, and I went, shh.
I remember 2 or 3 days later, we had votes were called, and I went and sat down next to him and reintroduced myself. And I said, do you have any idea what we're doing? We kind of laughed about it, that coming in as new members who had never served in public office before, we had no clue what we were actually doing. But then we recognized that most of the Congress doesn't. I read his announcement to retire in the newspaper. And it caught me off guard. I think you announced a couple of months before me.
That's one of the few. That's one of the few decisions of substance that I actually arrived at prior to my friends. And I was actually thrilled to see that he decided not to run for re-election, because our friendship will easily continue. The ball is in my court to come to Wisconsin. I had been in my congressional service about a year when I came to the very hard and difficult conclusion that the Americans for Tax Reform pledge was mathematically indefensible. And I wrestled with this, and I'd come to the conclusion that I needed to publicly reject it. And this was a huge decision in my life. And one night I sat down next to my friend, and I wanted some counsel from Reid, and I have to say I perhaps wanted or expected some maybe pat on the back of, Scott, that's really remarkable or something. I guess we all had, at the end of the day, we don't want to admit we have egos, but we do. So I sat down next to Reid. I'll never forget it. I leaned over and said, Reid, I said, I need to talk to you about something. Really? Oh yeah, what is it, Scott? We're voting along the way. I said, now I'm about to go public on this. I'm going to reject the Americans for Tax Reform pledge. Here's his response. We're just, I did that 2 weeks ago. It's in the LA Times. Here, let me show you. Right here.